Yeah.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Scotty Talks NBA. And what is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Scotty Talks NBA. As you know, we are always here on DSM Media. You can certainly find DSM Media on social media at DSM_media on Twitter, at DSM.DoSomethingMajor on Instagram, at DSM Media simply on TikTok. And then, of course, just type in DSM Media on Facebook. Search. You'll see the logo. Make sure you follow us, like us on Facebook. And, of course, make sure you're subscribing on YouTube. That's the most important. We're trying to grow YouTube. That's the easiest way to engage with us as well. So we get you involved in the comments. So make sure you're subscribed, got the notifications on YouTube, DSM Media. As you can see, I have a very special guest, one of my good buddies since I started podcasting, in reality, man. And it's been a while, even though we're under, we're both on DSM Media here. So I had to catch up with my buddy, Phil Stiefel. How are you doing, my friend?
Fantastic, man. I got to say, that new intro, I've seen your new intro, but I hadn't actually heard the music yet. Dude, that was some chill music there, man.
Yeah.
I love the beats on that new intro video that you got rolling out there, man.
Thanks, man.
I was ready to get all fired up. Now I'm all calmed down and ready to go.
Hey, well, with what we're getting into tonight, you might get fired up again. And yes, the intro video, man, one more time, it's a good opportunity to shout out Jeremy. Because the man has his head on it, and I mean, he just kills it every single time. A lot of the intros that we got going on here at DSM are from Jeremy, and man, between the highlight, the clarity in the highlight reels, I don't know where he finds those, how he finds those. Those are awesome. But then the beats as well got me fully cooling in here.
I know where he gets the beats from, but there's literally like 300,000 songs to weed through.
Yeah.
To find something, and like I've updated music on some of mine. It's a disaster trying to find that's a perfect
yeah.
Video,
So shout out to Jeremy. Make sure you give him a ring if you need an intro video for sure, because he kills it. But Phil, let's get down to business here. We know what we came here to talk about. It's very, very, very simple. I felt like yesterday I did my show by myself, and I felt like I was beating a dead horse, because I think it's very simple what the Sixers need to do. They got to get their heads out of their ass. But where we want to start here, obviously, we're going to preview Game 6 for tomorrow. You'll be watching this the day of Game 6. So this will be airing at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday morning. But nonetheless, we're going to talk about the Game 6 preview. We're also going to just touch on Game 5. I want to get your thoughts, Phil, because I obviously already got to share my thoughts with my viewers on Game 5. But instant reaction from Game 5. I know you've had basically a full day to really take it all in. What are your clear thoughts now, as you've had a day or so to kind of clear that out of your mind?
I mean, my thoughts are that it's outside of the specific games that have been won and lost by each team, the series is playing out exactly how I thought it would play out. No doubt. I mean, I said at the very beginning it was going to be a Sixers and 7. The Sixers were no doubt the more talented basketball team. There's more talent across the roster. But the type of team that the Raptors are, long, athletic, wing kind of guys. Like, they literally are running out 5, 6, 6, 8 guys onto the court. That's an awful matchup for the Sixers.
It is.
For the slow, half-court style offense that the Sixers like to play. Their aggressive defense, the Raptors. This is exactly what I thought would happen.
Yeah.
And I said it before the series that Nick Nurse is a better coach than Doc Rivers. And I know a lot of people are bashing Doc for whatever reasons, but some of the bashing is justifiable.
Yeah.
And Nick Nurse was outcoached in the first couple games. And we're a fadeaway 3-point shot at the buzzer in overtime by a 7'2" center away from being down 3-2 instead of up 3-2. Since those first 2 games, Nick Nurse has adjusted to Doc Rivers. The problem is Doc Rivers cannot readjust to the adjustments Nick Nurse made. So this is exactly how it's playing out. I figured it would come down just to the ultra-talented, slowed-down offense in Game 7. That's how it would play out. And it's marching exactly like that. The Sixers don't have an answer for that athleticism. They only have, like, I was watching it with my brother the other day, and we're like, dude, outside of Tyrese Maxey, there's not one guy on the Sixers that is remotely as quick or fast as anybody on the Raptors. And Maxey's what, 6'2", maybe? So
it's a worry, man. And you talk about just drawing, and I believe you said this. I know I said it coming into the playoffs. Now I had the Sixers in 6. That still can come true. I didn't necessarily see it playing out exactly like this, just with like the Sixers winning 3 in a row, and then if the Raptors do take it to Game 7, then they've won 3 in a row. So like at that point, we're back to square one, right? Yeah. But coming into this series, like I think you said it on your show. I know I said it, and it's that length, like you said. They're putting like 5 forwards out on the court at once, and whenever they like remove Kim Birch. And then I think the shortest guy is Gary Trent Jr. on the court. So they have basically Scotty Barnes running point guard.
Yep.
Pascal Siakam can bring the ball up the court. You have OG Anunoby in there. They throw Precious in the mix sometimes, who's been killing us. Chris Boucher, who's killed us in the past. And then who am I missing here? I'm missing somebody clearly, but nonetheless,
OG
Anunoby, yes. So OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, Chris Boucher, Precious, Gary Trent Jr., down the line, right? They just got a ton of guys that they can throw in there and throw at Thaddeus Young even, right? Like another forward that can defend and rebound. And so, like you said, once Fred VanVleet was taken out of the lineup, it's almost like it got tougher, right? And I think that's clear at this point. And then I guess the other thing, because it's a great point you brought up, and I saw Mark, our buddy Mark, who's always on your show, your co-host, he said it on Twitter last night, and it brought it to my attention. I'm like, damn, you know what I mean? Like, open your eyes. We are literally one 3-point shot from Joel Embiid at the buzzer of overtime from being down 3-2 in this series, and this looking completely different. And it's crazy to think about because Scotty Barnes hasn't played this whole series. And I won't lie to you, I was discounting his effect. Once we got to 3-0, I'm like, what's it matters? No, Scotty Barnes is back. We see what it matters. And he's a heck of a player, obviously. I mean, some of those post-ups, I mean, he just abuses Maxey or Harden, whoever's on him down there. But it's worrisome, man. I'm a little worried, but I tend to agree with you. The Sixers are simply the more talented team, but are they going to play harder? Because that's what it's going to come down to. And that was what was most concerning outside of just the general matchups in Game 5 for me. The effort, man. Aside from Tobias Harris, he looked like the only guy that was giving effort out there. Joel Embiid is our guy. He's injured. I get it. His thumb's messed up. But that doesn't affect your legs and how you move on defense. And that was my biggest disappointment. But I guess, and I'm not trying to get ahead of things here, but when you even look at this Toronto Raptors team, you look at that length. And I was talking to a Miami Heat fan that's a friend of mine. I have a friend somehow that's a Miami Heat fan. Yeah, right. Somehow. But he's basically saying, like, if we're having trouble with the Raptors, don't even worry about getting the second round because we're going to die against the Heat. And, I'm interested in your thoughts on this. When I look at the Heat, I look at Kyle Lowry. I'm like, that's a better chance at us having better matchups than what we're seeing against the Raptors. You know what I mean?
I said it before the playoffs started. When everybody's talking about do you win or lose to improve your playoff, not your ranking in the conference, but who your matchup is. Yeah. And I said that the Raptors were I was number one most scared of the Raptors. Yeah. Then the Bucks, just simply because of Giannis, and we don't have a guy that can guard Giannis. I mean, I guess Joel would have to be the guy because, and that was before Tobias. And just like you, I'm a big Tobias guy.
Yeah.
Defensively, I didn't think he was going to put the effort that he has on Siakam in this series. Yeah. So I still don't think Tobias could guard Giannis, but maybe he could put an effort out there.
Yeah.
And the Nets were my next least, favorite
Yeah.
opponent because of Kevin Durant and the
Right.
matchup on defense against Kevin Durant. But the Raptors as a team were the scariest matchup for us. So,
I agree.
so putting the Heat, you talk about the Heat. I mean, they'd be what, the fourth, fifth most scared. And, maybe I'd even put the Celtics ahead of the Heat on who I'd be scared of. Not. I mean, it's taking a lot into account. I'm just saying matchup wise.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I am not as scared of as any. Kyle Lowry's old. Jimmy Butler, he's banged up pretty bad right now. He didn't play last night.
Yeah.
He had a closeout game, and supposedly your best player didn't play. Yeah. Bam plays Joel tough, but Joel plays Bam tough.
Yeah.
Duncan Robinson, I think he's been benched, hasn't he? I mean,
he killed it in game 1 and then gone.
He wasn't playing towards the end of the season, so dude, I'm not worried about the Heat whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. In the grand scheme of things, when you look across like the superstar spectrum in the East, even the Boston Celtics with Jason Tatum in the number 1 defense, you know what I mean? Like that's more scary than the Heat per se. So I'm thinking, if we can, I'm not saying we're going to go into Miami and just beat the Heat in 7. I'm not saying that. I just think it's a better matchup, like you said. Like literally, that's it. And I look at Toronto, across the board. Some of the teams you just named, Milwaukee, Boston, Brooklyn, down the line. Who doesn't Toronto match up with? You know what I mean? Like you talk about a Boston team that they just have wings that can score, a duo in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown that just light you up. They have like 5 or 6 different guys they could throw at those two. Like it's insane. And you even look at the Bucks, it's like they have 5 or 6 guys they could throw at Giannis just to use up fouls. Like it's crazy what the Raptors present. And
the NBA playoff is a lot like it's the same thing with the NCAA tournament. Regular season is one thing. When you get to the playoffs or March Madness, it's a matchup based thing. The matchups mean so much. And in a best of 7 series, the team that wins the matchup battles, wins 9 times out of 10.
100%. And, just for future reference, and we'll obviously, dial back into the actual content of the series, but the Raptors' future, if the Sixers are able to escape this series with a win, the Raptors' future is ridiculous. I mean, obviously they may not be able to keep a lot of those or all of those guys per se, but I mean, between Scotty Barnes, we talked about OG Anunoby earlier on in the season when Ben Simmons was still in Philly. We talked about these guys, and obviously they're proving it in this series, and they've proved it throughout their careers. Obviously, Toronto has a great development system there, but nonetheless, something I really want to get your thoughts on is obviously Joel Embiid's thumb injury. Just what you're seeing, if you have, and I know we've talked about us playing sports in the past. I don't know if you've ever had anything wrong with your hand, something like that on a dominant hand. What are you seeing from Joel? Is there any way that he can kind of maneuver about this better? It's hard for us to speak from his situation, but what are you seeing?
So what I see is actually, I've never had a sports injury to my hand, but I did develop carpal tunnel when I was pretty young. And I did nothing about it. So it turned into nerve damage. So I got this problem now. I'm thinking about it. So I picked up this pen. But on a given day when I'm going through my daily, routine, and I try to pick something up and don't think about it doing it, I drop it instantly.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not an injury per se, but it's something that's a problem in my life.
Something you have to think about.
I have to think about. So what it does is it frustrates me. So then I'm overthinking everything to make sure I don't do it. So Joel Embiid, and I don't know how a torn ligament in a hand feels.
Yeah.
But you can see he's frustrated. Or maybe I don't want to say his effort level isn't there. It's not to the naked eye. But I think the pain every time the Raptors know. I actually think this ligament's been torn since a couple weeks left in the regular season because he's been grabbing that hand for a long time. Just coming out and saying that it was torn, just put a bigger bullseye on it.
Yeah,
so that little hand checking on it, the little bumping on it. I mean, it just sends a shockwave through his arm. I'm sure.
Yeah,
it's frustrating. It's exhausting. Pain tolerance itself takes an enormous amount of energy to just manage that pain tolerance level. So it's affecting him. And we're not going to see 40 and 20 Joel Embiid the rest of the playoff run.
Yeah.
Maybe one game here, one game there. And I don't know. I'm pretty sure you can't get a cortisone shot every single day.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure there's a limit to how many times he can get shot up. It's going to be an issue. Somebody that's not stepping up is going to have to step up
Yes.
to make up the difference.
So that is kind of a great segue here. But is there, I guess before we move on to that subject, is there a world where Joel Embiid, obviously he's not going to be able to do the scoring load, right? Like you just said, he's not going to have a 40 and 20 game. It's hard for him to even grab rebounds. He's still doing it, but it's definitely hard. And I see what you mean. When you have to concentrate on your hand and how it hurts, you're thinking about every single move that you make and how that's going to affect your hand before you're even thinking about what you actually have to do. So, with that being said, is there a world with this Sixers team where Joel Embiid can average 20 to 23, 25 points, get his 10 boards, and be the defensive anchor? Is there a world where the Sixers can get by like that?
Well, other people would have to step up. I still think Joel can score 25, 30 points. I forget who I was listening to, ESPN, Fox. I don't know what sports channel I was listening to at work. And one of the athletes they had on said they had a similar injury.
Yeah.
And they said the shooting of the basketball causes no pain. It's the passing, it's the rebounding. Actually, the playing defense, because if you go for a block shot or you try to make a deflection, or if you're just playing tight defense and you bang it on their hip, that is where the pain is going to come from.
Yeah.
So that's why, I'm not making an excuse for his bad effort on defense.
Yeah.
But, maybe he's thinking, well, I'm trying to save myself for offense. I'm trying not to bang it or jam it. I still think he could put up 25, 30 points on the offense. But you're going to have to accept the defensive liability on the other end of the on the other end of the court.
And that's what I think my biggest worry is, because you saw it in the third quarter, specifically in the beginning. They had went straight at him, and you feel bad for him, you know what I mean? Because like when you see him down, and obviously his energy was down in that game 5, and whether it's the injury or whatever it is, it just sucks for this guy, man. You talk about 2 back-to-back MVP caliber seasons that by the time he gets to the playoffs, boom, it's just this. It's not something that knocks him out. It's just something that can just nag him. Yeah. But it can't be used as an excuse either, because it's not enough to knock him out of the game completely, right? So now he's going to go out here, he's laboring, and, it's a reflection of Embiid now. And I just feel bad for him, because it just seems like it never ends. But we still got basketball to play.
The defensive end, it shouldn't affect against the Raptors, because it's not like the Raptors are throwing a 7-2 center out there.
They're not, yeah.
Danny Green, Tobias Harris, who both have played compared to where they should be playing above.
Yeah.
James Harden.
I agree.
Tyrese Maxey has to be better. George Niang, Shake Milton. Those guys have to be better. And Joel Embiid has carried them to this point. It's up to the other guys to up it one more notch to make up for it in a series. Now, if you're going to go up against a series where they have a big center or Giannis or whatever, any other series, it's a different story. But in this series against the Raptors, our team should be able to, make up some of that liability on defense.
I agree. And, and I get where you're coming from, because you look at the Raptors, outside of Fred VanVleet, who's getting their own shot? Outside of, let me not discount Pascal Siakam. He's their best player in reality.
I'll all I want.
The push-off, that's a whole different combo.
The dude made a bunch of deep fadeaway bank shots the last game, man. That's a low percentage shot right there.
Yeah.
But even when he's not pushing off, the dude's got one move.
Yeah.
The back down, side dribble, baby little side hook shot. And he fumbles that ball so much.
He does.
And I give Tobias Harris credit. He's stuck with him this series. But, man, he doesn't have that much of a arsenal on offense.
Yeah.
If you crash it on him, dude, it would destroy him if you double teamed him.
That's a very good point. It's just that you don't need to, so you don't. But yeah, that's a very good point. Imagine if they were doing what the Raptors are doing to Joel. So you mentioned James Harden. Obviously we were going to talk about James Harden. What have you seen from him in this series? Because it's been an up and down series, I would say, for him specifically, and obviously. What are you seeing, man? Because I can't figure it out, and I don't know if any of us really will be able to figure it out until the offseason. We see him next year and see if he's better. But it just seems like you never know which Harden you're going to get on any given night. Are you and I know you put this poll out a couple weeks ago, I believe. Is he washed? Is he is he injured? Is he just trying to find his fit? Joel Embiid after game 5 says he's been telling him he needs to shoot, he needs to be more aggressive since he got here. So it's hard for me to believe that it's stemming from him not wanting to step on Joel Embiid's toes. So what are your thoughts on James Harden? And then a caveat to that, what does he need to do different going forward in order for him to be the best for the Sixers right now?
Well, I mean, I said it before. First off, there's like a million things what you just said to lead that question that popped in my head here. First and foremost, I said a million times, James Harden has said in the past, he doesn't want to be the guy anymore. He has plenty. I think he just said it a few days ago. I don't want to be the guy anymore. I don't want to be the guy leaned on. He doesn't want to be that guy. And he doesn't want to be that guy because he can't be that guy. He's 34 years old. Yeah. He's got 14, 15 years of hardcore big-time minutes in the NBA.
Yeah.
His game is driving and taking fouls. And imagine what Joel Embiid's body will be like when he's 34 years old.
Very true.
The way he falls to the ground. James Harden is there right now.
Yeah.
I'm a 6'2", 240-pound white boy with metal in his legs. I might be able to get off the ground. James Harden at this point. He's got no legs left to him.
I agree, man.
Predicated to getting to the rim and making hard, drives to the rim. And even his step back three. When you watch him take that step back three, the step back's not as big anymore.
It's not as quick.
It's not as quick. There's a hand in his face every single time on that step back three. And he doesn't take straight shots anymore.
Yeah.
It always is a step back, dribble, step back three. He's 34.
Yeah.
He is what he is. He can still go off and put up 30 points if he puts himself in the right mindset on a given night, which we might need him to do that. But he's not going to be the MVP James Harden anymore.
Yeah.
He's just not. That was a long time ago.
And, to your point there, and I guess this is where I find myself kind of liking James Harden on the Sixers. Like, I love the idea of it. And I love the idea of what it could be in a perfect world, because in a perfect world, I think that he could be, I'm not going to say that he could be Chris Paul per se for this team, but some sort of that version, right? Like, that's what he has shown at times, is like anywhere from 14, 15 points to 25, 26 points, maybe 2 or 3 threes here and there, but the assists, right? And we saw it in game 1. Now, obviously, once again, things change. Coaches make adjustments. And something that was pointed out to me that you maybe won't see necessarily in the blind eye just from game to game. But I was listening to Harrison Sanford on Danny Green's podcast the other night after the game. And he pointed out to me that since game 2, the Raptors have not been sending help defenders towards James Harden. And so, as you mentioned earlier on in the show, this is where Nick Nurse makes adjustments. And this is where I feel Doc comes into play. And I even said earlier, to an extent, the guys have to step on the court and play basketball, right? Like, you have to put your maximum effort out there. You can't blame everything on Doc. But you also got to get your guys in good positions. And, I don't know who is telling James Harden during these games when he has like OG Anunoby on him, or even a Pascal Siakam who is very long. Who's telling him to attack them one-on-one? I don't know who is giving him the nod on that. That's not the best opportunity to score. There's no way, right? But
the problem is, and I'm trying to look at this objectively and not the frustrated Sixers fan, it's the matchup. Now, Tobias Harris has been, this series has been really good.
Yeah.
But as a whole, Tyrese Maxey's struggling in this matchup.
Yeah, the last 3 games he's been bad.
Danny Green, there was a point in Game 5 with like 3 minutes, the last couple minutes of the game before they went to like to clear the bench because the game was over.
Mm-hmm.
James Harden took 2 or 3 shots in the last couple minutes of his action. Before that, so with about 4 minutes left in the game, Danny Green had more shot attempts than James Harden in the game.
Insane.
That's insane. He had more points than James Harden in the fourth quarter that Danny Green did. But Danny Green, just like we said, we talked last year. We win that Hawks series if Danny Green's there. I'm a Danny Green guy. I understand the importance he is. But he was legitly your go-to scoring option in Game 5 because you don't have anybody that can offensively match up with the defense that the Raptors are throwing at you. So I don't know the answer, but I think some of our frustration with James Harden right now this series is because of the matchup.
Yeah.
Some of it's absolutely that he's not washed, but not who he used to be. Definitely some that he's still trying to figure it out. There's a reason why when you have these superstars traded mid-season, it happens very rarely. And when it does, it doesn't result in a title because you need a long time to really readjust.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of things that play into it. But this matchup against the Raptors, I think, is the root of all the problems.
And I think that's fair. And I think that's what worries me the most about this. Just thinking about even Tyrese Maxey, he's going through the same exact issues. Like, I don't know. I'm sure you saw it in the last game. There was a point where he tried to go past Scotty Barnes and he just couldn't. You know what I mean? Scotty Barnes is way too long. He's quick as well. Not as quick as Maxey, but when you're that long, you can get right back in front of him. There's nothing you can do about it. And Maxey's just running into a wall out there. So now he's forcing up bad shots. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of pressure on these guys to figure it out right now. And we're going to need it. And, that's where I kind of point to Doc in a sense. It's like, you got to make the most of the matchup. So when Fred VanVleet was out there, they were hunting him. And anybody who got that matchup, whether it was James, whether it was Maxey, even Tobias would take him to the rack. That's got to be Gary Trent Jr. now. When he's on the court, he's their weak link on defense. You got to attack it. You got to get those switches. If you want Harden on him, you got to get it switched. If you want Maxey to have that matchup, you got to get it switched. But nonetheless, man, it's rough. And, Danny Green, right? What, game 4, he played 46 minutes or something? And then Monday he plays 25 minutes. But the thing is, we need Danny on the court, and I'm not asking for 35 minutes from Danny Green. Like, don't get me wrong. Matisse Thybulle was unplayable the other night, man.
Has there been a guy that's fallen from grace as fast as? I mean, I know Ben fell from grace fast, but Matisse has fallen real fast from grace in this city, man. Those dimples have disappeared.
He is, man. It's crazy, and it sucks for him. But at the same time, we got to hold the player accountable in a sense. Where is your offensive effectiveness? And then my thing is, you come in the game the other night, and I saw him take a mid-range jump shot. Who is telling you to do that? That's not a good shot.
I don't even have the box score up, but didn't he have 6 or 7 shots in the game?
6 shots in the game. He was 1 for 6, which is a tip in from the Raptors.
Why does George Niang have 2 or 3 shots, and Matisse Thybulle has 6 shots? Why?
It doesn't make sense. Well, because the Raptors are just leaving him dumb, wide open. But, it doesn't mean that he should shoot it. But then you see him start to get in his head after he airballs a 3 and then airballs a layup. Tyrese Maxey passes it to him on a fast break, and he passes it right back. And it's turned over. So I guess my caveat question to that point is, will the Sixers look better without Matisse on the court?
Absolutely. They did to an extent. Even though they went 1-1 in Toronto, they did look better without him.
Yeah,
he should not be part of the playoff. It should be an 8-man rotation. They were doing just fine with that 8-man rotation. There's no world where I'm playing Matisse Thybulle anymore this series. And then if we get to go to South Beach, there's no world where I'm playing Matisse anymore. Yeah, I know Doc is stubborn. Doc will. Hell, there's a chance we get to Miami and he puts Matisse back in the starting lineup. That's just the kind of stubborn, old school coach that Doc Rivers is.
Yeah. You can't do that, though. You are 100% right, because you look at this Raptors team, and I know what I said earlier. At the end of the day, I'll say this to you. I do believe, Kyle Lowry guarding Tyrese Maxey is better than what Toronto, it's better for Maxey than what Toronto's throwing at him. Even a Jimmy Butler on James Harden, right?
Yeah,
that's better than a 6'8" forward on you. I know Jimmy's a great defender. His knees definitely going through something for him to sit out last night, but it's better than what Toronto's throwing at you. So Miami, the other side of that, once you get to that series, you can't just throw Matisse out there because they're going to do the same exact thing that Toronto's doing and any other smart coach. And it's the same thing they used to do to Ben Simmons, except it's a lot easier to do it to Matisse Thybulle. You just stand 10 feet away from him, shoot it if you want. You know what I mean? It's a lot easier. Like Ben Simmons was at least bringing the ball up and shit. Matisse Thybulle's not touching the ball unless it's passed to him, and he's not moving from the spot that he gets passed to in. So, like, what do you really need to guard? And Eric Spoelstra is going to see that. He's going to totally, whoever's guarding him, go double down on Joel the entire time. And then the same thing down the line. You get to Milwaukee, it's going to be the same thing. You get to Boston, it's going to be the same thing. Boston would be the only series where I'm like, I have to play Matisse Thybulle only because you need him. You absolutely need him for defense. Yeah. But it's sad, man, and it just hasn't improved on offense. Like defensive player of the year, but
I know you don't want this to be a 6-hour show, but and we said we were going to keep it short. Then we said, when we get talking,
31 minutes. We're just getting started.
Yeah. You take on the personality of your coach. I talk about that with Joe Girardi and the Phillies all the time. The lifelessness, although they're playing really good the last couple of games.
Yeah.
Taking on the life with Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers is an arrogant a-hole. Cocky as can be. That's kind of how the Sixers are playing right now. They're playing like, yeah, we got this. We're the better team. They can't beat us. And they're not actually putting the effort out there. And that might be another. You look at it. We're going up against Nick Nurse, one of the best coaches in basketball. If we go on, we go up against Eric Spoelstra, another coach I would rank above Doc Rivers. We get past that. You go up against, Budenholz, Buden, whatever his name is.
I know what you mean.
There's literally 3 or 4 coaches better than Doc Rivers right now in the playoffs.
And conference. Even in Boston, you look at Ime Udoka. I know he's a rookie head coach.
I didn't want to say his name. I already messed up Budenholz or Hoser or whatever.
I know he's a rookie coach, but look at what he's done with Boston's defense. He looks like one of these young, innovative coaches. Like that's what Ime Udoka looks like. But I'm with you, man. And something I was going to ask you about, and it's a good time to ask it. How did you feel about Doc's comments today?
I hate it because now that's like the personality. You take on the personality of your coach.
Excuses.
And the players, it's excuses. The players hear that. They always do. And whether you're throwing a player into the bus and they hear it, or you're talking to it's not a good look for a team that's struggling. It's a fair question. Now, is it bad timing of asking that question? Possibly. Because Doc's personality, and he's probably frustrated after another loss, and the fact that now they're kind of getting their backs up against the wall. It's probably bad timing on the question. Maybe you ask it to him in the off season, when everybody's cooled down. But it's a fair question. Doc Rivers could have just simply said, I'm not going to answer that question right now, or just ignored it and said next question.
Yeah.
He could have ignored that or answered it better. But like I said, I'm not blaming the reporter because I like those tough questions.
Yeah.
I just look at the timing of it. I don't even know who asked that question. I wasn't sure. I never.
I'm not 100%
sure. Probably what's his name who asked the pop question. Earlier in the season.
Bodner. Was that Bodner?
It was a Bodner or Krell or one of those guys. One of the young. It was one of the young.
Oh,
guys.
It was Krell. It was Krell. It was Krell.
It was one of the young guys on the Sixers beat there.
No, he yelled at Bodner with the condescending tone. I can't remember what he said to Bodner, but it was out of place.
Rivers thinks he's better. Doc Rivers buys the hype that he's one of the 10 best coaches of all time.
Yeah. He eats it up.
Is he? I can't put him in the top 10. One title in 20 plus years with how many superstar teams? I just don't buy it.
Yeah, and that's ultimately what worries me. And I put out a tweet earlier today that we could sit here and blame Doc all we want, because I do believe at the end of the day the guys on the court, like, they do have the ability to outplay their coach. Like, they do have that ability. They have to choose to do that. They have to figure out how to do that, and they shouldn't have to do that, but they do have that ability. So at the end of the day, I think you got 2 more shots, right? You've had 4 games in a row where you get a chance to knock this team out. Get it done. We can blame Doc for the second round series. That's fine. You need to get this done if you're the Sixers. But the Doc Rivers stuff you talk about a guy that doesn't understand the city, right? And it's crazy to me, man. Like, even if you feel that way, just don't say the shit. You know what I mean? He's just so condescending. He's so like cocky. You know what I mean? And you haven't done anything here. You haven't done much the last place you were at either, even with the talent that you had. So it's like it just comes off the wrong way, man. I don't know if that's what he's going for, if he's just trying to keep it like Sixers versus the world or whatever the case may be. But it's not working for me and it's not working for Philly. And he's going to see if they fall short, if it's this series, if it's next series, he's going to fall on the fork. It's not going to be the players, right? Maybe James Harden, we'll see. But I feel like Morey's a love affair will extend on with him.
Like you said, it's giving them an excuse.
It is.
You know, he could have been a condescending asshole instead and just said, I don't care what my past was. I'm not worried about it. We got this. You know,
we're going to win this.
We're going to win this. He could have said it. He could have taken it and put in the condescending and a positive spin. But instead, he made an excuse. Well, Chris Paul was injured. Look at that roster that we went up against. Dude, if I was an Orlando Magic that played for him, I'd be pissed.
That's disrespectful as hell.
Look at the roster I had to go up to, Detroit against. You had Tracy McGrady, but I know they Drew Gooden, man, or whatever his name was. Dude, he was a bad. Dude, he was a bad.
Remember him?
He was bad. But dude, if I was good, I'd be pissed. I'd be like, I'm Doc Rivers from my contact list right now.
Because you know what he'll say if he ends up getting fired, whatever the case may be after Philly. He'll look back on these seasons. Last season, he'll say, "Well, did you see? I had Ben Simmons as my point guard." Like after he told us that this guy was his guy. You know what I mean? That will be his excuse for last season, and then this season it'll be Embiid hurt his thumb in the playoffs. James Harden didn't play like himself. Blah blah blah. The excuses live on for Doc, and that's just sad, man. That he can't. You're such a historic coach. You've been in this league so long, but you have zero accountability. It's insane to me. But I got two more questions for you, Phil, and then I'm going to get you out of here. We're going to go relax for the night because I know if your day was anything like mine, we've been working all day, my man. Maxey, is there too much pressure on Maxey, or is there not enough?
That's a fair question right there, huh? I mean, I think there's too much. I mean, the kid's 21 years old.
21 years old.
First real full season. And he lit the world on fire there for a couple months, man. No doubt about it. So now everybody expects him. People were calling him the number 2 star on this team for a little while there, including me, including you.
Including me.
Yep. I regret it getting that James Harden jersey. I wish I would have gotten a Maxey instead. You know? But on the flip side, we got to understand, he's 21 years old, you know? Yeah. But, with great power comes great responsibility. He's shown that he has got it.
Yeah.
And I think in a different situation, in a different matchup, a different first round, if this was the Miami Heat in the first round, or the Bulls in the first round, or the Hawks, we would be seeing a totally different Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah.
I just think those guys that are guarding him, the Barnes, the Trents, he just doesn't have enough experience.
Yeah.
How to, we talk about Doc not adjusting. He doesn't have a coach that can tell him how to adjust. So he's trying to learn it on the fly. Now, I don't know if he's still got his coach, college coach's number. He should be calling Coach Calipari. I mean, like, what do I do here? Because he needs to adjust.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have any mentoring to, tell him how to adjust. He just keeps getting forced the ball by Harden and, being forced to do it all. It's a bad matchup for a 21-year-old without a lot of experience. But you know what? If he wants to be the man, and he kind of showed that he wants to be the man, he's got to be better. He's got to figure it out.
Yeah.
He's got to call Calipari.
Yeah.
Or call somebody. Use one of those lifelines. Call somebody, man.
You look at games 1 and 2. Philadelphia, the city was in the palm of his hand. Like he had it. He had it, man. He had like 35 plus in the game 1. He followed that up with a 20 plus game in game 2. From there on, it's flattened out.
Was it Fred VanVleet?
Fred VanVleet.
Yeah, who's not guarding him anymore?
Exactly.
Nick Nurse making it
exactly. Exactly.
It seems so easy, doesn't it? It sounds so easy.
It really does sound so easy. I just wonder what it's like game planning against the Sixers, man.
I want to know what it's like to be Sam Cassell and Yeager and the assistant coaches on this team, because those guys say it.
Yeah. You have to wonder, and obviously Sam Cassell's time is coming as a head coach. Like he's going to be out of here if he's not the head coach here. Yeah. I'm hoping he's head coach here.
I called for it mid-season.
Yeah.
I was Doc Rivers looked tired. Him just saying, I'm going to step back. I need a little time. I don't know if you realize this. Doc Rivers played for a really long time in the NBA.
Yeah.
He retired. The next year, he became a head. He did not take a season off in between his playing.
I did not know that.
So he's gone from high school right to college, right to playing in the NBA, right to head coaching with Orlando, and he's coached he has not taken a season off in the NBA. So he hasn't had a year off from basketball since he started playing basketball. He has been in the sport of basketball. The dude's got to be tired.
Yeah.
And he's a golfer, man. He needs some time on the links. A little time off to recharge the batteries, man.
I agree, man. That sometimes that
man.
I was gonna compare it to something. It's not fair to compare it in that situation. It's not the same, but I'm with you. It just seems like it's not that big of a deal if they lose this series to him. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like it's just another nod on the history books. You know what I mean? It's weird, but I get what you're saying. So my final question to you, Phil. What has to change in Game 6? What has to happen for the Sixers to close it out in Game 6? And do you think they will close it out in Game 6, or do you have? I know you had it going 7 originally. Do you still have that feeling?
Yeah, actually, no, I don't. I think they do close it out in Game 6. The talent, there's just no way. Well, first off, there's no way they lose this series. There's no way they lose 4 straight games. There's a reason why it's never happened in the NBA.
Right.
It's only happened a handful of times in sports. Period. It's almost impossible to lose 4 games in a row.
Right.
In a best, it just is. So I actually think they close it out. I think going back to Toronto, getting Matisse out of the lineup helps. Like you said a few minutes ago, the team needs to step up and make adjustments despite Doc Rivers.
Yeah.
Joel Embiid's got to step up. James Harden's got to step up. Whether it's I don't want to say at this point in the season you don't have a players-only meeting, but the players need to get together in the hotel or somewhere before the game and be like, yo, this is what needs to get done. Yeah. Harden, Embiid, the leaders of this team need to step up and be like, yo, guys, no pointing fingers because it's on all of us, and let's just wrap this up.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that actually does happen in game 6. You would think with the trajectory of the series, the Sixers are still a 1.5 point favorite in Toronto. And you would think that based off of the trajectory of the series that they'd be the underdog now, but they're not. So I think the Sixers lock it up in Game 6.
And I tend to agree with you. I tend to lean that way as well. The only thing that worries me, but I just can't see Embiid coming out like that again. Him himself alone. Like I feel like even if he just comes out, because the team's going to follow him, and if he comes out and plays with that intensity that they need, I do see them winning. It caught me so off guard in Game 5, man. It caught me so off guard after you see them in Game 4. Embiid's got his arms around, or maybe it was Harden. I can't remember. I think it was Embiid had his arms around Maxey and Harden. Yeah. And you look at them, and it's like they're waking up there. And so I'm like, oh, they're not going to come out like that again in Game 5. And then the same thing happens. But there is part of me that says that was a wake up call. You got booed off your home court. You had fans leaving the arena early.
I don't know what Embiid's in. I don't know if you've noticed it. I've noticed it. The look in his eyes, even in the losses, even with the lack of energy, he's a different dog this playoff season.
Yeah.
He wants it. He wants it. Doc doesn't care about his legacy. Maybe James Harden does or doesn't, but Joel Embiid does.
Embiid does.
He doesn't have 10 more years in the NBA. Joel Embiid wants that title.
Yeah.
There's a different dog mentality to him, and he sees it. He's got to be pissed off, and he's got to come out better in Game 6.
I agree. They got to get their heads out of their ass. It's as simple as that. Play with effort. And the biggest thing for me, man, simply just don't turn the ball over, right? And I know it sounds so, I make it sound so simple. It's not that simple. That's what the Raptors do well. That's why you have to eliminate it, right? Like that's part of beating a team. That's part of taking advantage of your own matchup. Because the only other side of, Toronto obviously being a terrible matchup defensively for the Sixers, as far as going against them defensively, they're not that good offensively. No. They're simply not. We talked about it earlier. Fred VanVleet, he might be the only guy that can get his own shot on that team. You talk about especially behind the arc, right? There's just no way that the Sixers can come. There's no way they should come out and lose 4 games straight to this team that just simply lacks offense. Like the way I look at it, if they could come out like somebody get hot, if it's Maxey hitting 2 or 3 threes, or if it's Tobias being hot, somebody just has to get hot in one of these games for them. And I hope it is tomorrow, man. I have a feeling that it's going to be. But they got to bring it. They got to bring it. So I said that was my last question. My last question: who's your key to getting that win tomorrow? Is it Embiid? Is he the difference? Is it a total team effort? Is it Doc that figures it out? What do you think?
It's Embiid to an extent, but because of the injury, because of the pain, you need somebody else. I've been saying it since day one that James Harden is going to have an old school James Harden game one time.
One time. And that's all we needed.
Just one time. Because right now he's playing himself into picking up his player option, not a new 4 or 5 year, $200+ million deal. Is that like a $35 million option for next year? If he doesn't have that one game, he's going to be stuck on a 1 year, $35 million deal next year.
Yep.
And we're going to be stuck with him next year.
No long-term security.
I'm not saying I don't want James Harden here next year. I'm not. But we just need him one game. Yeah. Maybe tomorrow night's that game, or tonight's that game, whenever you're listening to this show. Maybe game 6 is that game.
Yeah.
At some point he's going to need to step up and drop 35. Go 5 of 7 from 3. Go 15 of 16 from the free throw line, whatever it may be. Maybe it's tomorrow night, but it goes James Harden, it goes Joel Embiid. It's up to them. I have no faith that Doc Rivers will lead this team.
Fair enough.
It's the top
Fair
2.
Enough. And hopefully Tobias can keep. We didn't talk too much about him, but let's just shout him out because I know you love him. I know I love him. He's a player that's very unappreciated in the NBA spectrum. You talk about a guy of skill, but a guy that's also able to swallow his pride and just fulfill a role. And he stepped into the shoes that he needed to in this series as far as playing defense. And he's turning into a guy that the Sixers should probably keep around, right? Like, I know we talked once we got Harden, like, about moving on from Tobias in the offseason. In this role, when we have a guy that can come in and facilitate the offense, and we have Maxey, who will probably knock on wood, probably take another step next season. Tobias, if he just comes in, hits open shots, plays defense, grabs boards, he's the perfect player, right?
It's kind of crazy. Like, I describe it as Tobias Harris is an average defender. But that's actually really good because when he got here in 18 or whatever it was, he was a major liability. He was like real bad on defense.
He was. You remember when he got here? He was kind of like and I'm not judging anybody, but he was pudgy, right? And he's in a lot better shape now, man. And you can see it in his game.
I'm sorry about us pudgy boys, man.
Hey, I'm pudgy. Don't get it twisted. Like I said, I ain't judging.
My grandma used to tell me all the time as a kid. She's like, Phil, you're awfully husky. I'm like, Grandma, why you calling me fat? You're like, why you calling me fat? She's like, I'm not calling you fat. I'm calling you husky. I'm like, that's like pudgy, husky and pudgy. It's basically the nice way of saying fat.
That's so hilarious. My grandmother used to say the same thing to me, Phil. I swear to God. She's like, oh, boy, you're getting husky. I got to stop feeding you.
It's a lie. I mean, I grew up in an Italian household. My grandma, it'd be a 4-hour meal at my grandma's house on Sunday. Not holidays, regular Sunday. Yeah, I was a husky Italian boy. What am I going to say?
Hey, we were all there, man, and I don't know if anything's gonna change for me. I try to work out when I can, but I don't know if anything.
I got an elliptical right here. It holds shirts, man.
I got one of those bike racks downstairs in the basement holding some stuff.
I tell myself every day I'm gonna get on there, but no, not happening.
All right, man. So we got Sixers at 6. I think we agreed there. Let's pray the Sixers. Man, wouldn't it be nice? And I'm not asking for it because I just want the win. But wouldn't it be nice if they could get up by 15 points, 20 points, where I can sit back, keep my eye on the NFL draft, and just relax a little bit? It would be nice. I'm not expecting it. They've kind of ruined my chances at not a peaceful NFL draft night because it depends on what Howie does, but something that I just generally like to sit back and watch. And I'm not going to be able to do that now with the NBA, the Sixers playing on that night. So they ruined that for me. But go Sixers. We need the Sixers to win in 6. I'm going to let you go for tonight, Phil. But be sure, guys, they're going to see this afterwards. So I was going to say check out Trending in the AM in the morning. But nonetheless, check out Trending in the AM on Friday morning. Make sure you tune in.
And the Raptors, the Raptors lost.
There we go.
Howie's first round decision.
There we go. So tune in to Trending in the AM on Friday morning. It'll be tomorrow morning when you're seeing this. Make sure you check out Phil Stiefel, Beard of Knowledge on Twitter. If you're not already following DSM Media, make sure you follow DSM Media on all of the social media platforms. We're bringing content on each of them every single day. Make sure you are subscribing to DSM Media on YouTube. That's where we're trying to grow the most. We're trying to build that up. I know we're going to be doing a lot of exclusive content on YouTube specifically in the future, especially once Eagles season gets closer. So definitely make sure you subscribe, turn those notifications on. Make sure you're following DSM Media, staying in touch. But that is going to be it for this episode of Scotty Talks NBA. Everybody have a great rest of your Thursday, and go Sixers. Finish them off. And Howie, do not. Howie, I actually have faith in Howie this draft, Phil. I'm not going to lie to you.
Another hour added to the show.
Yeah, no, we're not going down that road, but I will certainly. I'm sure I'll be talking with you soon about the NFL draft once it goes down. But everybody, have a great rest of your Thursday. Go Sixers and go Birds. Peace, everybody.